Hello, welcome back to another Rocc.Racing video. Today we are going to be going through some of my personal lap times around the Paul Ricard circuit, ready for the new ACR league that I'll be entering at the start of February. It would really mean a lot if you could go watch those live streams for both me on my ACR league and my dad at the AOR league. His season has already started. Every Tuesday he does a new race that will be live streamed, and on the 3rd of February and then every week after that on every Wednesday I will also be live streaming all of my races, and it would really mean a lot to Rocc.Racing if you could go tune in those videos live and say hi. You can chat to us live and just watch how we get on our races. Furthermore, before we get into the actual video, I'd just like to request that you go underneath this video and click the like button and subscribe button. It would really mean a lot, and it would show your appreciation for these videos that we make. But also, if you see just below, right next to me here, we have our Facebook and Instagram page, both by the name of Rocc.Racing. These pages are pretty much just identical, it's just whichever page or social media site you prefer. But you can get behind the scenes and different updates and things like that when stuff is happening in the world of Rocc.Racing. With that being said, let's get into some of my fastest laps.
Green light, go, go, go.
Right, here we are, coming out of the pit lane now. So during practice for this circuit, I spent a lot of practice, quite a little bit more than the previous time trial. Now there's a couple reasons for that. One reason being is I'm not a massive fan of this track. I've driven here before in the F1 games, and obviously I've watched on TV different races around here, but I've never really been a fan of the circuit. And even driving on the circuit in a high downforce car is not really been a circuit that I've enjoyed driving. So doing this practice, doing this time trial has been quite challenging, but I've gone through and I think I've got a decent time. I'm right where I want to be, ready for the leagues, so I'm pretty happy. One thing that I kept having to remind myself of while doing these time trial sessions, both this week and last week, is it isn't all about outright pace. These time trials are there to put us into our leagues and our different tiers for the league, I should say, sorry, so that we're not racing against people that are massively faster than us or massively slower than us. So the whole idea is to set a lap that we know we can do again and again and again, just so that it gives a nice average. So the moderators of the league can then put us in the correct tiers, so that we have good fun racing instead of just being massively behind or massively in front. So it's quite difficult going around and just knowing that I don't have to get a full time out of the entire car, but I just had to set consistent pace while being fast enough. So here we go, coming on to our first flying lap. That curb there, during practice, the penultimate corner there, during practice, I struggled quite a bit with. You hit that, it just completely, well, not spins, but it oversteers the car, and so it completely ruins your exit for the straight. Coming into Sector 1 here, Sector 1 and Sector 2 aren't really too bad for this track. It's quite nice to drive. It's mainly Sector 3 that is the big pain, just because the corners are so long and there's not braking zones for them. Normally in corners you have straight line braking, then you turn, then you accelerate, blah blah blah, but all of Sector 3 is just kind of trail braking and not really knowing fully, well, not being able to see the corner fully. So coming onto the back straight now, normally in F1 we turn left there, and which kind of breaks up the straight, but on the GT3 seasons we don't do that. In real life they don't do that, so we're taking the full straight. That corner is quite tricky, it's very high speed, very high commitment, but you get it right you can gain quite a lot of time. And now we're coming into Sector 3, and this is the first corner of many that is very difficult to get right. and this one as well, you just cannot see the apex going into the corner. You just have to keep turning, keep turning, keep turning until eventually you see the apex. Coming into this time trial after all my practice, I was aiming for about a 1:36.8. That would put me around about where I want to be, maybe a little bit behind of where I want to be in the leagues, well, the tiers I should say, sorry, for the league. So there we go, coming across the line for the first lap. There's a 1:57.2, which is what I was quite impressed with for my first lap in practice. First laps I normally get in about 3-4 tenths, sorry, slower than that. So 1:57.5, 1:57.6. So I was quite impressed to get that low on my first lap. Coming on to the second lap now, I took quite a lot of time off on this lap. As you just navigating the first main kind of corners of sector 1 going into sector 2 now. Just super patient with the throttle around that corner and then get the best exit possible ready for this gigantic straight. Now there's two things that kind of become a little bit annoying with the BMW and this straight. So the first one is the BMW is just completely fine to sit in 5th gear. It won't redline whatsoever. But if you put it into 6th, it carries on increasing its speed. And so it was very difficult to know when to change up from 5th to 6th because it wasn't hitting any kind of limiter. And so I found changing up at about 160, sorry, that was roughly about right. And the second thing with that straight is, if you've gained so much time in sector 1 and 2, say you're 3-4 tenths up, and then with me knowing that I'm not very good in this sector 3, it was quite mentally challenging to be able to carry that speed through this last sector when I've done so well in the first sector, if that makes sense. So because the straight was so long, I'm just sitting there knowing that I've got loads of time that I've gained, but I just need to carry it into sector 3, which I very rarely did. However, this lap in particular I did 7 tenths ahead, which puts me at 1:56.5. So I was pretty impressed with that. That's 3 tenths quicker than what I was aiming for. So 1:56.5 was well over what I needed. But I thought, you know what, I've got plenty of time. That was only 3 laps or 2 laps, so why not go for another one? So lap 5 was the next lap that I actually improved. So I'm going to go quiet like I did last week, let you watch the onboard, and then I will do a outboard commentary. So here we go. So there we go, we lose quite a bit of time coming out of that final corner, but I wasn't too first. It gives us a 1:56.4, and here we go, coming onto the outboard view now, coming out of the last corner here. and getting ready to come onto the straight, focusing on the best exit, not using too much of that curb, but using enough of it that I can get the power down nice and early and get the speed up very quickly to gain as much time on this straight. Coming into turn 1 now, braking just before the cones start or around the cones, taking quite a bit of curb on this first bit, and then it was always a balance of knowing how much curb to take on that second corner. But I lost a little bit of time through there, but not too much, maybe a thousandth or so, which isn't too bad. Braking just after the second white line on the right, taking loads of curb and then hooking it in for that left-hander, getting on the power nice and early into first. Went a little bit wide, missed the apex there, but got on the power nice and early, which kind of counteracted me missing the apex. Getting the power down nice and early, ready for that right-hander, and then the left-hander onto the straight. And now we've got to wait. We've got to maximise every single gear change. Like I said earlier, change up at 160 miles an hour to get as much time on the straight as possible, to gain as much miles per hour as I can. And as you can see on this outboard view, this straight just lasts forever. You're just constantly waiting. Like I said earlier as well, just looking at that time that I'm up, thinking, how am I going to be able to keep this? We run very wide coming out of that, going into that right-hander, sorry, losing the rear end just a little bit as well. A bit too much slip angle. Coming into this right-hander now, just kind of carrying as much speed as possible without understeering. It's very easy to understeer off that corner. And then this is another tricky corner as well. There's not really any notice for braking. You just got to try and judge it. You can't see the apex. Then coming across, and you want to mount this curve just a little bit so that you can brake in a straight line as much as possible, extend your braking point as much as possible, carry as much speed. There was a little apex on that corner, but you can't really see it on this view. And then I actually hit the curb on the inside of that last corner, which ran me out a little bit wide, compromised my straight line speed just ever so slightly. But there we go, across the line for 1:56.4. So there we are, guys. That is my fastest lap around the Paul Ricard circuit. Now, I know it's not the fastest for 56.4. I probably could have got a mid to high 55 if I really tried and got the setup perfect. I got it quite good. It was quite stable and quite nice to drive despite the circuit not being that enjoyable. So I was happy with where I was for the setup, and like I said earlier, I wasn't going for outright paces. It's time trials to put us in the tiers, so I wanted to set a consistent time that I knew that I could, if I jumped on the game again and 5 or 6 laps later, I could set the exact same time without trying too hard. And I think that's what I achieved here. So I wasn't too bothered about getting the fastest time possible. So there we go, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please go underneath this video, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and check out our social media. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.